Alright, all you dungeon crawling gamers out there, welcome back to the Indy Radio Arcade. And now it's time for us to go into another edition of the $64,000 question. But before we go into this week's question, we asked you last week for upwards of well over $22 million and above. Would you, during any form of race that involves cars, perform the hit song Coming At You live during that very race? And several of you out there would sound all pretty good on this one by saying the following. Do we have to perform the song while we're on the track, or can we be somewhere else while these cars are racing? Another person would say, where do you expect us to find race car drivers during these pandemic times? And the last person would sing at the top of his lungs, well, here I come, coming at you live, while a whole bunch of cars, at least 10 of them, would race around them during that said moment. And to that last guy, congratulations, you won well over $22 million. Or according to the Maestro, $11 million, but we'll throw in the bonus because you had monster trucks racing in it as well. And to the other two people, well, I'm pretty sure you could have found at least one stock car driver to get involved in this race to get you well over $110,000. And to the last person, well, we would have thrown in an extra bonus for you too if you were able to perform it in the middle of the racetrack itself during the race. Yeah, we're not complete monsters. You could have done it in the stands. And with those questions properly answered, folks, we now go into this week's $64,000 question, which reads as follows. Would you, for well over $64,000 for every 10th floor you clear, do a live-action version of the video game Faith with all the monsters that are included in that game for each floor that you decide to clear? And according to the Maestro, if you take your friends, you'll have to split the cash. But as a bonus for each boss that you're able to beat, you'll get a bonus $64,000. But before you answer that question at home, folks, you're gonna have to wait another 2 weeks there, you dungeon creeping crawlers, because the Maestro's currently rolling out the machines, which means we've gotta bring the Indy Radio Arcade for this week to an emphatic close. But if you missed anything from this 8-bit goodness we were able to give you, don't worry, we got you covered, because you can catch this show again one more time, all the time, on our SoundCloud, Facebook, or even Tumblr pages, named the same, only known as MusicVillageRadio under the hashtag Indy Radio Arcade Lvl.111. And according to the Maestro, that's where the pinball wizard lives, 111 Mulberry Lane. Nice. And if you guys want to figure out other crazy and zany things that we still got prepared for this summer of RPG, like a beautiful castle that looks cool from a distance but has terrible acoustics for our shows, you can go ahead and check it out on our Twitter/YouTube pages, still named the same, only known as the Agent 0012. Before we head out for the night, we would like to thank, as always, you, the game show contestants out there, for listening in to another 8-bit adventure edition of the Indy Radio Arcade. And we would also like to thank you, the independent artists out there, for delivering that musical goodness like you always do. And keep up the great work, guys. And here's hoping your music will be featured in an RPG game in the near future. Because, you know, those musical goodness that comes from those games are usually the best. And speaking of games, folks, last but not least, we would like to thank you, the independent gamers out there, for coming out all those sweet, sweet video game hits, clips, and high scores that we had a chance to mention during this week's show. And like always, guys, keep those games a-coming, because we're definitely going to need them for these list of shows for this month to keep the adventure alive. And I guess with the creepy janitor giving us that look to vamoose while wearing that suit of armor we've collected over the past 100 shows and can move in it a lot better than I can. I'm DJ Smokey on behalf of the Maestro saying, when there's smoke, there is fire. And we would like to thank you for playing another 8-bit month-starting adventure edition of the Indy Radio. We're finished, man. We're done. Game over, man. Game over. And good night, everybody.